and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton. And today you are going to meet a wonderful author, historian, just a joy to be around, Conover Hunt. Welcome.
Thank you. Delighted to be here.
It's so good to finally meet you. I've heard your name forever, so this is a real treat for me.
Probably because I'm so old.
No. You though have been very well known nationally.
Yes.
As a historian. You're from here and you're back here.
Yep.
Tell us just a little bit about, your journey growing up here and leaving and what you've done. Then we'll talk about your
Well,
book.
Hampton was a wonderful place to grow up. And I was the first year of the baby boomers. And of course the baby of my family. And it was safe. I got a good education. You didn't lock your doors. Of course, nostalgia is now rampant.
Oh, it is.
But
yeah.
it's always, we always look back fondly on what was before. But I got a very good grounding. The Hampton school system, when the baby boomers came in, had to completely revamp because there were so many of us. And so I was the last senior class to graduate from Hampton High School before Kickotan. They were building it when I was in high school. And
so it was still...
They kept my senior class together. There were more than 1,000 of us. And they put you in different tracks, really going back to junior high school. Not that many people went to college. I graduated from high school in '64, but they had huge vocational training programs, apprenticeships with businesses. You could walk out of high school and have a career. And I think they're now coming back around to that the AB or BS degree, not everybody needs it. We need plumbers and electricians and so on and so forth like that. But it was a good place to grow up, good values, honesty meant a lot, and of course we didn't have drugs. Really, marijuana showed up and LSD and everything when I was in college.
Oh, yeah, late 60s.
We just drank liquor. Illegally.
Well, kids
are going to try something.
They are.
But it was, looking back, we were extremely well behaved, very well behaved. So when I came back, and after more or less 40 years, and had the time to think about writing a novel after all these history books with all these footnotes, I thought, well, why don't you write about Hampton? So this novel, the main character is a native of Hampton. A lot of the names are Hampton names. The protagonist is named Carrie Mallory.
Oh, well, yeah,
it doesn't get any more Hampton than that. Her grandfather was a seafood processor in the crab business, and so on and so forth. And there are Chismans and Amerys and all the, Whitings and all the old Hampton place names. And
so when does it take place? What's the time period?
It takes place in 2011.
Okay. So it's modern, but tied to.
What I did was take history, and there are plenty of mysteries in history. And I took something that was real, and then I embellished it and made it a mystery. And then an event going back really to the War of 1812 is what prompts this.
Oh, okay.
And then these events take place in 2011, and my protagonist, Carrie, who is
now, is Carrie a male or female?
Female.
Okay.
Oh, just typical Virginia. All the women have male names, And in all of my...
Name for bachelor uncles.
Yeah, in all of my novels, all of the women will be thin and rich.
Of course.
and strong. So it is, after all, fiction. But so she is brought in, and a lot of it relates to James Madison's estate, Montpelier. I worked on that actually before it even went into public hands, while Mrs. Scott was still alive, preservation. And so I knew a lot about it. And I thought, ooh, we'll make this mystery. And believe it or not, you do kind of make it up as you go along. And of course, I was scared to death because I'd never written dialogue.
But you've written how many books now?
10.
10 books, all nonfiction,
all nonfiction.
research.
We don't have
detailed.
dialogue
Right.
in nonfiction.
And
we
so
have
you had
quotes
to find those,
with
find that
footnotes.
voice.
Well, and I didn't know how to even format it. And I thought, well, and you know, the thing is now that they tell you, you have to write as if they're speaking, not as if they're writing.
Yeah, it's not grammar. It's
writing
different.
is much more formal. And so how many idioms do you use, and how many contractions? And do you have to have a subject, a verb, and a predicate? And, you know, dialogue.
Not how I talk.
Dialogue,
See how I did that? Not how I.
Yeah.
No subject there.
Dialogue has dangling participles.
All
I
the
mean, it's
time.
just amazing. So I had to get an editor. Found one who was in Newport News, and he couldn't have been any better. And he said, I don't know anything about history. I said, well, you're in luck because I do, and I have tons of friends who can fact check.
You've got that covered.
I'm covered. What I don't know how to do is how to do dialogue, or how to really develop characters out of my head, because I'm a narrator telling you about Joe Blow, who lived way back when, who's dead as a doornail, and here's what he did.
Joe
and
Blow meaning, John Kennedy.
John Kennedy, James Madison, you know.
Joe Blows that we all know. And
That we all know.
Yeah.
In my case, I was lucky to get into presidential history early on, so most people have heard of my main characters. But and it was just agonizing. I was scared to death. So the editor wrote.
you don't look like someone who would
No,
be fearful.
believe me.
You really don't.
I know, and I never talk like one. You know, it's all a bluff. I was terrified. And so I thought, well, I'll never finish this. It's never going to happen. And it limped along year after year after year, and I'd put it down and go back and, you know, do another museum or whatever, and then pick it up again. And finally, you know, I was only working like 8 hours a week. And I said, well, what are you going to do? Walk on the beach and look for shells, or go ahead and see if you can write this novel? So I was encouraged, and I did it, and nobody knew about it. Nobody.
So you did, because you weren't sure
I
what
was-
it would turn out like, or if you could finish.
I was not sure
You just kept it.
until I got that thing in my hot little hands that I would ever actually finish it.
Really?
So there's hope for everyone.
So why is it called The Constitution Murders? What's the, or,
Well,
or is that giving too much away?
No, it's pretty obvious. The book starts with the headless, armless, legless torso of a naked woman perched on the wheelhouse of the USS Constitution in Boston,
Oh.
in Charlestown. And that's only part of her. Other parts show up.
Okay.
And so then the mystery is, who is she? How did she get there? And who's behind it? And that's what starts it. And it ends up being sort of a romp, going back to these events in the War of 1812, with modern, you know, whodunits, historians, and CIA, and Homeland Security, and so on, involved in this mystery. And so that's where the characters come in. And what I ended up doing was I put sort of the cliff notes in the back of the book that have the meaning of all the government acronyms,
Oh.
and then a list of all the fictitious characters. Everyone else is real.
Okay.
And so you can go through, if you get absolutely buried. It is a bit dense because I'm a historian, and this was my first try. The editor wrote, he said, you know, he's so nice. He said, you know, Miss Hunt, you could get rid of everything between page 5 and page 52, and I don't think it would upset the narrative too much. And so giant chunks of history ended up on the cutting room floor. And then I began to understand that, first of all, you don't give it away. It has to be a mystery. You need red herrings, so I threw in red herrings. You have to keep the action moving. The characters have to be developed more than you do in real history. And then you've got to have, you know, the climax, the denouement, and so on and so forth. And I managed to do all of that technically, And then I spent about a year smoothing it out and moving things around.
That's so fun. So what are you going to do next?
Well, I'm thinking about another one.
I knew it.
I knew it. I don't have anything else to do. This one will be in Texas, though, and another mystery. And I'll keep some of the characters that I have in this novel, and Texas appears in the Constitution murders.
Okay, because you lived there for quite a time.
Yeah,
It's
I know it.
something you know.
I know it, and
That is the first thing a fiction writing coach tells you is write what you know.
write what you know, and that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what I'll do the next time. But I did a lot of research because I was trained to do research. So if you need a red herring, I did the research on red herrings and developed those and tried to keep things moving. And it's worked out pretty well. I was, of course, so relieved to finish it.
Now, when did that book officially come out?
It officially dropped, I guess you'd say,
Yes.
the
You know all the
22nd
lingo.
of December.
Okay.
And I had gone off for Christmas. And we did the final things. And nowadays, since everything is digital, it just appeared.
Oh, I have not
There's
been
no-
able to do that yet.
There's
with
no
the
elf in the
book.
forest setting type anymore.
Yeah.
That's over. And once you sign off on it and have done everything,
It exists.
it exists. And then, like 5 weeks later, you can distribute it through Barnes & Noble and the wholesalers and so on and so forth. And the industry is changing. It's certainly changed a great deal since my first book, which was in '76. And now they say, okay, here's the demand, and we're going to print X number of copies.
So did you have to get like a new publisher, a new agent, all that sort
I
of
had
thing?
to get
'Cause you're
I
historical.
had to get a new publisher. I had plenty of nonfiction record, but no fiction. And the industry has really changed tremendously.
Yeah.
It's much more in the hands of the author. The big companies are bypassing agents and traditional publishers.
Wow.
Amazon is now a major publishing house. So is Barnes & Noble. And the electronic books, the e-books, that's what I read. And that's why
Do you? I have just, I just want to hold a book.
Well, see,
I've
I'm-
gotten rid of paper newspapers. I can read those on my phone or my computer, but a book?
I'm telling
I'll
you.
get there. I'm sure I'll
wait
get
till you
there.
have a bad bag.
Too much. I will say, I went on a trip
Too much
recently, and I
weight.
thought to myself, I could have unloaded a little bit here.
Yeah. But I'm now reading a biography of Warren Buffett, 800 and some pages. If I had that in hard copy, I would suffocate lying in bed. So I do the Kindle. Other people do the Nook.
Yep.
And it's instant. It's easy.
Yeah.
I'm
you
not
don't have
tearing
to
down
wait.
forests and wherever. And you can do all kinds of fancy things. You can loan them. You can borrow them.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't even realize that.
It's gotten
Because
very-
I have this thing about, I have to pass a book along. I mostly don't keep them, but I want somebody else to read them. I want to share them. I want to put them in a little free library or leave it in the waiting room somewhere and let someone just discover it.
I take boxes to the public library for their sale.
I do that too.
I gave away half of my library when I downsized. And that was the cruelest cut of all, of course, a book person. And I cross the street when I pass a bookstore rather than going in because I don't have any space. And so the Kindle has worked very well for me. And I think I think society is heading in that direction. I don't know anything.
Of course they are. I'm
Other
just
people
a little
don't.
slow.
Other people don't know, but it made sense to me. And people out there, the distribution is instantaneous with digital books.
Well, it's true for our public library. Our public library, what's really growing in demand is the digital books.
Yeah.
And it's so convenient for people because they don't have to come into the library. They don't need transportation. They can do it from home. They can do it when they want it. You know, it's a perfect solution. Well, how does your study of history and all that you've researched and the museums that you've worked for, how does that inform today's generation? I think
that's really one of the reasons I wrote the novel, is because today's generation is not interested in history. History has become boring, and it shouldn't be. It really pervades our lives. And, you know, George Santayana, if you do not study the mistakes of the past, you are doomed to repeat them, is truer than ever. But, you know, I grew up and we took civics in school. I don't know, I don't have any children, unfortunately, but I don't know when they dropped civics.
No, they have it.
Where?
It's called something else. It's 12th grade.
12th grade.
And of course, the AP kids don't take it anymore. But
people have dropped out of school well before 12th grade.
no, we're hanging on to them now in Hampton.
Well,
We
I
have
know
a
you are. You're
very
doing
high graduation.
Yeah, doing
rate
great.
now. Yeah.
I'm worried about all the last 30 or 40 years when
Right.
when the rates were not so good. And since my field was the Constitution era, an early republic, looking at today's population, they don't know the Constitution. They don't know the Bill of Rights. They don't particularly care. And, you know, the Constitution is a living document which has always had its loose interpreters and its strict interpreters, as you well know. And we're watching a daily drama
It's fascinating.
of that. It's absolutely fascinating. So I thought, well, you know, since people still go to museums and historic sites, but I thought, well, find a mystery in there and see if you can get some people in and maybe inadvertently teach them a little bit of history. So that was one of my motives, a selfish motive. And
well, that's fun. And you know, when you talk about civics, that's something I see too from the government side, is that people forget that government isn't the paid staff who does the work. Government is all of us. and you can't sit in your house with your doors closed and expect government to come in and fix everything. You've got to participate. You've got to be in your neighborhood watch. You've got to talk to your neighbors. You've got to be a part of the community. And I think that is kind of what we used to learn in civics.
well, the thing of it is, I've been so
back.
appalled that people don't even know about the separation of powers, which some teacher beat into my head probably by 4th grade when I was growing up. But you can't wait till 12th grade.
Well, that's true. And I hope, you know, it's hard to tell with the standards of learning, but there has been a real effort to think about history and how it contributes to today's life. But of course, it's, you know, reading and math are sort of the foundations. And if kids can't get to reading at grade level, they can't get to science, they can't get to social studies.
They've got to be able to read. And I enjoyed working with Soundscapes because that's music. They're teaching 1st graders about fractions.
And so Soundscapes, tell us just a little bit about what that is, since you brought that up.
It's an after-school intervention program for at-risk children that uses music to do behavior modification and teach teamwork, concentration, self-esteem, all of the things that you need to succeed in life. And it starts early. We don't wait for middle school. It starts in 1st grade. And the children are playing music from the beginning. It's a little bit rough to listen to, but they get a whole lot better, a whole lot faster. It's a free program. It's in Newport News and can expand. It's a global approach of group education that takes these children and builds teamwork. And what you need to succeed in an orchestra are the same skills you need to succeed in life. Respect for others, respect for diversity, teamwork, self-esteem, so on and so forth. And so the music does that. But these little kids are doing they're doing musical fractions before they learn fractions
Well,
in
it
school.
makes sense. I mean, music is very mathematic, and a lot of
It's a
science and
language.
math majors
Yeah.
are also musicians, which
Exactly.
it used to puzzle me, but I get it now.
Yeah, and
So your interests
Mm-hmm.
are history, particularly the Constitution,
American.
the early American years, music,
nope,
kids.
10 ear, got a 10 ear.
But kids, you've got some social
Oh, well,
interests.
who isn't interested in kids? I mean, they are the future. And I came in, and here was this after-school program starting up, and they asked me to come in and work with them on their first strategic plan, which I did. And then they said, okay, you've got 40 years experience. Will you help us develop our messaging and work on fundraising? And I did. I worked with them for 7 years, had a wonderful time. And they told me, music is going to turn these kids around. And I said, well, here I am. You're going to have to prove it to me. And they're absolutely right.
That's great.
And the kids are, it's saving kids.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming by.
Loved it.
And the book, if you can get a close-up of the cover there, Conover's, once you pick it up,
All right.
and they'll zoom in, is available on Amazon for Kindle, Barnes & Noble.
You can call Barnes & Noble.
But I'm going to put in a little plug for the History Museum.
Let's do it.
Because if you want a quick hard copy, you don't have to wait for them to mail it to you. They've got some copies there, and hopefully you'll leave some signed copies there.
I'm speaking on the 15th.
Okay.
At noon for their lunch brown bag series, and we'll be signing copies there.
Good. That's wonderful. And you're local, so hopefully we'll see more talks and,
All right.
and more book signings around. I can't wait to read it myself. Thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy Conover's history and the contributions to the community, and she'll sneak just a little bit of history and education into a book that's fun, fast moving, and got that mystery going. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.